Good afternoon. My name is Bahman Yazdanfar, and this is Turnaround, a weekly show brought to you by my colleague John Hardy and I to discuss different elements of the human beings when it comes to the organization and the environment that people work together there closely. Today we have different set just because the studio was set up that way before our arrival. Forgive us if you see some changes. We have a guest today by the name of Mr. Wolfgang, and I had the pleasure to discuss with him a couple of things before the show, and I asked him to introduce himself and tell us about your background and how you get here.
Oh, how I got here. Now, that may be a hard
Your
question.
full name, first your full name.
My full name is Wolfgang Amelung, and I guess for a long time, I've looked at, I was very interested from high school already studying philosophy. So university philosophy was the main element. I was more or less educated scientifically, biology. And however, at that point already, having a very inquisitive mind, science seemed to be very limiting. And I kept thinking there's another way to look at science. So I studied, actually, my main effort at university was what I would call the structure of scientific revolution, or the structure of science and the philosophy of science. Even though I took all these science courses, I was still interested in the sociology and the, what is it? Whatever.
Combining the philosophy with the science.
Synthesis.
Yeah.
I got out of university actually doing very well. I got a BSc. I wanted to do masters, but it just seemed to have to stop at that point. It was as if...
You were in Canada?
Yeah, at York University.
Yeah.
And it was as if I'm not going to get anything here anymore, so I may as well do my thing.
Okay.
And it's always been about that subject for me. And I just got deeper, and I always was involved with nature and ecosystems, and I just kept working and designing and moving forward in that area. So my early thoughts were very much about quantum physics, chaos theory. Right now, I don't think the answers necessarily lie there because they're still the same science as usual. I just find that working with true sustainable ecosystems and having success in them, as I've had, I see something else. I see another kind of science, a deeper kind of science, perhaps the true science.
And what you do for the living?
Well,
are you using the same?
I am doing that, right? I'm building sustainable ecosystems. People would say they clean the air. The benefits are. We did studies at Club Monaco, where we actually had some doctors, and we took a group of people there and we studied their behavior. In other words, did they change their diet? Did they eat better food? Did their attitudes change? It was agreed already that the air was better, but what else were the other influences of working in such an environment, such a better air, living, healthy, natural environment, as opposed to,
And where was that, in Monaco, you said?
Well, the outcome was significant. It went so far, it didn't maybe go as far, the research to completion, that it could have. So it's one of those things that's still up in there, because these side benefits they're not concrete necessarily. They're kind of soft benefits. When you do something well and you create a healthy living environment, then it's hard to measure all the benefits.
So is it because of the number of the variables?
Yeah, well, the obvious things are less absenteeism, people staying longer and doing, over time, not minding being in the space. Productivity increases because the energy and so forth, the attitude changes. Things like that were measured and were noticed.
And you are designing those kind of environment right now?
Yeah.
Within like a construction, or is it within the existing units?
No, for private homes and in larger systems. There's been a huge blossoming of what's so-called living walls after Canada Life, and I was on CNN for a time. And this went round the world, and the next thing I noticed, within 10 years, everybody's doing living walls. The only thing I'm not seeing is anyone doing what I'm doing, which is ecosystems.
And what is it exactly?
Well, the difference is that you've got a water with living plants and animals. You're trying to create different, what I call biomes, water systems, land, canopy, shoreline, all these things in one system. What other people, they see what I've done, and they go, oh, we'll just do a plant wall, and they do a little trough to catch the water. That effectively is not an ecosystem. It tries to be, but it's not really sustainable.
But it's not feasible in the urban area,
Well,
environment to put all of those elements.
Clearly not,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of failure in replacement of plants with these systems. And there's many reasons that I don't necessarily want to get into, but what I have is systems that are 20 years old, still going, and they're very successful. Clients that work with me and continue to work with me because of the success of these systems. So I'm not a great buyer of new plants, because I don't have to buy and replace plants. So I'm not, my suppliers don't see me as a good customer.
Oh, because you're not repeating.
No, yeah.
Well, you create your plants from their seeds by themselves?
Well, also, yeah, when it's working well, you can take bits of one and move them, and exactly, yeah.
Do you work in Toronto area, or do you live in the suburban area?
Well, I live in Brampton, and I had an office in Toronto that I changed now to work out of my house. So I use my home, my garden, and my whole home is a demonstration of.
No, what I'm saying is your clients, the people that you're helping with, are they in the urban area, or they are
mostly? But I've had interest in projects throughout the States and in other locations. We went to Qatar. And there was a great interest.
Oh, Qatar is a very
yeah. Here we met a sheikh who wanted to put a mall 100 miles from anywhere in the desert, and he goes, "Oh wow, if we could do a tropical rainforest, well, that'll bring everybody there." So but these things, either they happen or they don't happen. But
so now that we know who you are and what you do, what brought you here?
What brought me here? Well,
I know John invited you, but generally, what message do you want to?
Yeah. Really, I don't want to say so much that
this hours is yours. You have to say.
Yeah, I don't want to say so much that I don't have competition, or I'm not seeing competition doing what I'm doing, or saying I'm doing ecosystems. I would rather say there's a way that I've discovered through working with the highest integrity, and from what I was interested in philosophically before. In other words, there's another kind of science which goes deep into another aspect, which is really a 0 point or a vacuum. In other words, everything that we understand in science is on this side, the explosion side. It's just before, like a shooting star. Just you see it and it's gone. It's finished. So the explosion side is the end. This is everything we see and everything that's measurable. But everything comes from the potential, from the 0 point. And I feel that when you work with living things, you're able to reach into the 0 point and anticipate and guide and bring things from this place into the visible and this side. And when you do this, you create something that's truly more sustainable than if you start over here, it's over. So the more this technology develops, science as we know it, the shorter lived it is, the more not sustainable it becomes.
So shorter shelf life.
Sorry, before I ask just one question. Are you suggesting all of these ecosystems that being advertised, being spend money on the either environment or the CO or whatever they are trying to push in the form of the policies by the governments? Are you suggesting these are only false in that side of the science without introducing the 0 point side or bringing anything from
well,
other
if
side?
the rules are all based on the visible science as we know it, and we're going to talk about quantum physics and all these things which look like they're reaching over to this side, they are still of
the
this
visible
side.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a very different kind of walking on water or another approach. And it's almost very alien to us. So it's as if by working with living things and plants, they're a kind of a guide as to where and how to move in this. It's not like we might not have memory, some ancient vestibular energy of what and who we are that we could reach over here.
But just a
that
really
may be
lack of willingness there.
So far away and so hard
Yeah.
to believe in our reality that by working with living things, it kind of puts us back in touch and brings us in touch with these elements. So that's why I think they're crucial.
Believe it or not, I think this scene, I have seen it somewhere in my dream or memory.
Ah, beautiful.
Exactly this explanation of the zero.
The
Just this 10 seconds.
But you know, if I can do anything, that's all I want to create, not tell you anything. I would like...
No, that is, I'm serious about that.
Thank you.
You wanted to ask something, sorry, I
No, now
interrupted
I've actually become completely distracted. I'm more interested in your dream.
Yeah.
Because this is the first time it's happened.
No.
And was
It was
Wolfgang in your dream, or
that seconds of the two hand,
Yes.
someone with a black shirt is moving. That it's like repeat of the scene that I have seen it before.
okay? So
Yeah.
now, how is it that you happen to be visiting my friend Bauman, who's already in a fragile
Yes,
state in his dreams?
we thought telling it.
Because the whole thing about
Yes.
exactly is
Yes.
that there's so much more.
And I don't
to-
believe in these things.
Well, he doesn't believe in it, but clearly there's so much more to these ecosystems,
Yes.
and I think that's the whole. That's
But
the
it's
point.
teaching you a lot of things. For one of the things that's come up, I've talked to John about, is what I call speaking to the listening. So it means I can be talking, but I'm talking us. And when I do that, there's no ego there. There cannot be. And I start to lose my own purpose, but I'm speaking us. In that space, you're able to see something like what
It is something that is missing from perspective of those who mostly put their energy and emphasis on advertising what they do,
Exactly.
rather than focusing on the. And that is why I ask you if you think, are you suggesting that all of these commotion that we see about environment, the reason it's not going further is because sitting in just one side of the equation,
yes.
and is not to the other
It's
side.
talking about what I'm saying, but it's only green paint.
Have you ever consulted government? In Canada, I mean, or in North America, let's say.
I've had...
Qatar, you sat with the sheikh.
Yeah, I've had connection. For example, I was called by Environment Canada to do a big project in Ottawa, and it was a go-ahead to do a big project. But all I ran into was all these people from Hull, Quebec, and Montreal, and they just bumped me right out of there. And they did.
So bureaucracy was impediment to the.
I
to
was
the
from
process.
Ontario. I wasn't from either Ottawa or Quebec, and a lot of those projects go to Quebec. So I'm facing government.
So you are a
mafia.
foreigner. You are a foreigner.
Of course, they're not going to let, no matter how great an idea. And, they're
And
gonna,
why this project was for Ottawa? Everything good goes to the Ottawa. Why is not in Toronto or not in Barrie, not in?
Well, I
I
have
guess because
projects.
government funding. I guess this
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm not worried. Right at this point, all the installation, there's about 12 of them. They're all in peak performance. So I've just been I've upgraded the 21-year-old one to everything's peak condition. Well, I don't know why I'm at that point. I guess I'm supposed to be. Now, and John said, well, what are you doing next? And I'm going, I don't know. When I'm ready, something will be there. But you know, I'm trying to live. I'm getting older now, so I don't need to push, control. So I'm actually living my principles. And it's really
So
very
you
much
went
one
back to the philosophy
of faith.
Yeah.
And being connected and really allowing a much bigger picture to where I don't know, it's coming from way out there. One of
We
the
should ask Mr.
it's just coming in, and you go, where did that come from?
Trudeau?
Right?
Stuart, come here and see where it comes from.
Yeah, when you believe it's a numbers game, and you believe you have to call people and push, then that's the only possibility. Then you're not open to having so many of these interesting
We thought putting it, we thought mixing it with the political aspects
Yeah.
of that Then what is your view of all of these so-called policymakers of the environment and all of these taxes that they are adding, and really we don't see much of a result, at least from where I am standing?
You know what? It's like asking me what judgment do you have on Jack the Ripper?
Well,
And, you know,
actually, it's a good analogy.
Yeah. So and I don't make them
That
to be
was our
Jack the
next-
Ripper.
that was our
but
next
my
question.
point is, you know
Well,
what?
Jack the Ripper, let's say government.
I suspect it's a really dirty job, and it's going to take a very highly evolved being to say, okay, I'll go down there. Somebody's got to do that dirty job. I'll do it. He's there.
But if they don't allow you,
No, I'm saying a spiritual being
Oh, yeah.
from another plane
okay.
saying, I'll go down and do the dirty job.
Oh, okay. So we need a divine intervention.
My point is, how do I know? What do I know who Jack the Ripper is? What I have no judgment. I can't see that.
No.
part.
I mean, from the view you are sitting there, let's say you just said already you did
Okay.
21 projects.
My ego.
Your 21 project you see, and
Yeah.
you know what it takes
Yes.
to do one project.
Well-
Let's say 2 years, whatever.
Yeah, but what I see is I see no competition. In other words, nobody's willing to do what it takes to do what it really is.
That is my
Because
point. I mean,
everything-
if there was a willingness, how much effort does it
Well,
take
a
to really,
willingness is the first step,
which you're lacking, of
which
course.
is okay. But if it's based on exploitation, then I don't think that is the first step. It cannot be based on exploitation. It cannot be based on profit. It cannot be based on
How about-
beast of burden technology, where I'm turning everything into slavery to serve me.
How about mild manipulation?
It can be no form of manipulation. It can only be harmonics. Asking if it's willing to participate. And guess what? When you create the right attitude, a space of love, and you ask, everything always says yes.
But that is 12 tasks of Hercules to create that kind of the environment. I mean, socially.
Is it the well? Is that true? If that's, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
No,
I thought he was using his power to bring this about.
No. And that is, yes, that is why I'm saying it is not the job of anyone.
No, it's, in other words, it's
single-handedly
quite a
can do that.
task.
It's quite a task.
You have to do it.
Yeah, but I think
Not the
I think
Hercules.
rather
My point was the task, not the
But it
Hercules.
only happens. It only needs to happen with one person at a time, and having a conversation and extending the conversation, because everyone has to do what they can, as far as best they can within their own possibility. So the thing is to not be so enrolled or attached to the game, to the reality, which keeps us all occupied and preoccupied.
But coming back to the ecosystem,
Yeah.
so that we can, if we treat the ecosystem, Wolfgang, as a metaphor,
Yes.
which is essentially where you're going, you're synthesizing the philosophy and ecosystem.
Yes.
What would you say would be, what does it represent? If you wanted to describe the ecosystem as a metaphor, the people are buying not just an ecosystem, but something that is more than an ecosystem as such.
Okay.
What are those other levels that they're in fact buying?
I
You're alluding to them, but more
you know, I
formally.
woke up one morning and I had
Yeah.
I just wrote something and it came out. And I could read it, but the essence of it was, it just came out this way. It came out that Noah's Ark is an interdimensional spacecraft. The next line was, a Merkaba is an interdimensional spacecraft. And then I said, an ecosystem, a garden, is a space of love. And then I combined those and I said, an ecosystem, a garden, is a Merkaba.
And
Dot,
what
dot, dot,
Merkaba?
is a
I'm sorry, I
Merkaba.
don't
Well, a
know.
Merkaba is
Kind
a
of an
way.
individual spaceship.
Well, it is, but what it is, religiously, it's the only way that, you know, you have to you can move from one dimension to another.
Well,
it's
there
like-
is another way, and we had it
Yeah.
last week with our previous guest.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, it's a gizmo, but I don't know the specific name of it, but
I don't remember that, but,
it's a
but it
pendant
was
with lights. And let's say, how would you compare, let's just say, your ecosystem as a
Okay.
means of actually transporting
Well,
to such a device?
here's my answer to the gizmo, and here's my what I also wrote in the thing I wrote. I said people would like to think. I know.
No, he's talking. I know why he's laughing. He's not laughing at you. He's laughing at the gizmo.
No.
Oh, he called it a gizmo. I'm not calling it a gizmo.
No, because
I'm just
we neither of us remember the name. It was so complicated.
Well, now he's trolled it a gizmo. So it's
So go back to your answer.
Pour note as
Don't
the
mind
gizmo.
him.
my answer was
I
that
am used to that.
I wrote this in the piece that I wrote, and what was important, what came up was
Yeah.
people can create their home, this space around them, and they can energize it and put their love into it and create a space of love in their home. However, this is material, bricks and mortar, furniture. You can infuse that with an energy, right, and give life to it, a life-loving energy.
Which comes back to that
How-
gizmo.
the gizmo.
Yeah.
And this
It
problem
is what you put on it. Put in it.
This is not
the-
sustainable.
Yeah, okay.
It's only when you create the relationship with
Okay.
living things and create a harmonic and asking for this to participate with you and taking the whole thing in our image and taking it to a fifth dimensional expression. Because nature is beautiful.
It's
but
like
nature,
a locket if some people have it or something. They give an energy
Yes.
to it. Baby, it has nothing to do with
it's
it.
like the golden calf,
yeah.
worshipping the golden calf. It's dangerous and it's the wrong direction. It's locking you out that the answer's out here instead of the answer's in here. Okay.
So then, if I understand it correctly, it's your interaction with the ecosystem. So in a sense, you become now part of the ecosystem,
and
as opposed to the ecosystem being something
it
external
guides
to you.
and holds you in the true place,
Now,
right?
when you're
It's-
saying
it's-
guiding and holding, you're not talking about plants like Venus flytrap and things like that. You're not
Hey,
physically,
well.
literally holding. You're talking about just metaphorically.
Yeah, but it's like the whole thing about ecosystem is it's this huge buffer where you get to pull and tear and go through all these emotional states to push through where you're going, but this absorbs that and keeps you on course.
So it
Keeps
in
you
this-
on the course.
And so-
and it's the straightest line through.
It's very interesting. Japanese, they have a feng shui. You heard probably from that.
Yeah.
It's Chinese, but yeah.
No, just Japanese.
And Japanese,
Yeah,
both.
The feng shui is Japanese.
They've been arguing over that
Well,
for years.
okay. It depends who
not important.
who occupied who. Anyhow.
It's a chicken and the egg. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's say Chinese. I give up.
I give up.
I
too, so
capitulate.
we both give up.
Okay, but
To
what
be
I'm saying,
continued.
their philosophy is a movement of the energy or the flow of the energy
Yes.
and air through the environment,
Yeah.
to the environment that you live in or you
Yeah.
work in.
Yes.
Is it something that you can relate to that in your
Okay.
philosophy
Let-
of the
let me talk about
ecosystem?
feng shui.
Yeah.
If I see energy, why do I need feng shui? Feng shui is when you don't see energy. And
Oh,
you
that
have to-
is what they
you
do.
have
They-
to
they
make
go-
rules.
they go
Like
around
this
and say,
rule,
okay, you are not
it's
making
like,
money.
Like all this sacred geometry. I think we're beyond the point of sacred geometry. I think
Oh, you mean out of the beyond the physical again aspects of that?
these are
Okay.
forms.
Okay.
But would you
These
say that's
forms
true of all of
are-
us?
No,
You know?
not all
But
of that.
what I'm saying is, let's say for
well,
you,
yes,
who's a
all
master
of
at
us.
this.
Yes, all of us.
But you think
I
us-
think,
we're all
I think
beyond
we're
feng
all
shui?
at the point of, it's like, it's not about the hurt inner child anymore. It's like, kick that little guy in the ass. Let's move forward.
That is a good point, actually,
Okay, and it's if we want to lock ourselves
No,
into
it's a good
karma, right? Then yeah, we can do that, or we can say there are laws, there are higher dimensions that supersede karma,
So that
and we
means
can
the-
leave all that shit behind.
You have to grow out of that
Okay,
that
the
physical
question
environment
is-
then.
Yeah, like if we
Yeah,
only
okay.
have a few days left, why are we going to deal with karma, which we're not going to resolve anyway? That's for 10, 50 generations
After I
down
get
the road,
there.
after we're done, right? We need to just move and do what we need to do now.
But the thing about it is, it's just like in Tai Chi, we were talking about this another time, it's the formless. If you see the form, it's not the master. So the idea is you learn the form in order to supersede the form.
Right.
But you have to learn the form first.
Okay, but
right?
we've learned the form for how many generations now?
But at the same time, haven't we also in this generation forgotten about form in the sense that where is the learning?
So now all we have to do is remember, right?
But remember how?
Believe me, in the hundredth monkey thing we're in right now, anything is possible. If we're into laws that supersede...
Everybody in our show talks about 100 monkey.
Shit, yeah.
And we just got yesterday to the year of monkey.
And I remember when I was the only one talking about it.
We're still looking to meet this 100th monkey.
Okay.
We've had several on our show, but we haven't hit the 100th yet.
It's a construct. It's bullshit, right? But play with
try
it.
telling that to the monkey.
The monkey doesn't care one way or the other.
Listen, this year is the year of the monkey, and
Precisely, which makes it even more difficult.
my phrase usually from last week on has been to my friends or people I associate, I said, don't monkey around.
Brilliant.
How about let's monkey around some more?
Or more, in your case, now that you bring the 100 monkey, I have to change that again. Let's monkey around to get to that the effects of the 100 monkey.
Really? Yes.
But joking
That's
aside,
very important what you just said.
So you're talking about knocking out the inner child and what, superseding it with the inner monkey, or what exactly would you put in its place?
Actually, that was the you ask us a very similar.
You're really like, hey, I'm okay with toppling it over, you know.
Wolfgang, just in middle of your explanations, you said something that hits me in a certain way.
Yes.
Because years back when I was dealing with certain people. That they were my age.
Yes.
And I'm talking about when I was 50, let's say, or 51. It is not like I was 20, 50. And they were my age. And whenever I talk to them and something, how is things going, they always blame their present situation to 30 or 35 years ago, to 40 years ago, about your father, mother, whatever. They were saying that. And I used to tell them, I was there too, but after you get to the age of 25, 26, I use that number. I'm not saying that is correct number, but I use that number. I said, when you get to that age, you have to come to the realization that it is on your own, and you have to let those things go. You mentioned something very kicking the childhood away and going on your way. Is it part of the ecosystem, or is it part of the philosophical part that you were referring to?
Well, that's always interesting because what comes first, the chicken or the egg? One and the same, right?
Yes.
Part of the same process. I'm just saying that the ecosystem supports you and keeps you in the golden middle. And the golden middle is the key. What you're talking about is the goal. Is the golden middle is having the optimal power to keep moving forward and the optimal energy to take your life to the highest expression.
Yes.
Really?
But
because how can you have any power if you blame your parents for everything?
No, nothing.
Zero.
Zero.
Right?
Not only
so
that.
So the more I say, hey,
you become useless.
Look what's happening in the world. It's all my fault. The more power I have.
What I'm trying to say now, I have a little bit confusion about what ecosystem are we talking about. Are we talking about the physical ecosystem, like a nature, Mother Nature, trees, wind, or are we talking about the different ecosystems?
I'm sorry to say again, it's both at the same time. That's the point. So if I teach ecosystem,
so you cannot just put a line in between and say, hey,
there is no line. That's what we do. We separate. But there's no separation. So when I'm teaching, I want to do an Eco 101, how to do true ecosystems, that they really work, and teach this. I'm also teaching this other level of ecosystem, which is we would call it spiritual place, because we're talking about something that isn't science and technology, it's something else. So Now am I talking about
Do
spirituality?
do you
I
know-
guess so, but
do
who
you
gives
know what it is, or do you just feel it, or you live in it?
It isn't an it. It's a beingness, and it's the best way to say is the creation of a space of love. It's a pattern that you want to recreate, and you want to be guiding and part of. So that comes from within. It's always from within, and it's connecting that and creating that around you, but it's being guided from within you.
So an ecosystem
higher
then
place.
is not insular. So it's
No.
it's self-contained, but at the same time, then it impacts everything around
Wow,
it.
it's a resonance that vibrates out. So from this place, you affect. It's an energy. It's a battery. It
Let me
resonates.
challenge you on that, being a little bit of the devil advocate, because
Good.
I asked this question from a couple other our guests, not in regards to what you said, in regards to the level of the having the spirituality within. It's not.
And I hate to
probably-
say that
No,
because
no,
I really don't want to
I
play
ju-
that
I
up
just,
at all.
No, I understand. I understand the difference. What I'm saying, I want to ask this question as a challenging question,
Yes.
and that is, when we wake up every day, we are as part of the environment we live in, either it's urban to suburban, doesn't matter, within the family nucleus of the family,
Yes.
or alone. We are constantly in a process of interaction with others.
Yes.
And those others could have positive energy, negative energy,
Yes.
or some sort of the mix.
Yes.
If we get to the point that you just described, that you live with your ecosystem and you move beyond that, and when these obstacles comes in a constant and daily basis,
Yes.
how you personally deal with that?
We're
Or
here.
do you- they don't
well,
think-
no, we're here to learn. So whatever shows up as is an opportunity to continue to learn. That's
Okay.
all.
Okay.
So they don't block me, they don't stop me, but sometimes you have to get to that place of true liberty, of true freedom, to be truly the expression of yourself, not the expression of who you think you are or who you think you should be, but what's coming from within you. And at a certain point, I think you say, yeah, not bad. I still have a long way to go. I have a lot to learn, but yeah, I am kind of doing that, I think. And especially when people call you weird.
Oh, well, that is my middle name these days.
You know what? Yeah, but what's interesting with
I don't have problem with that
What's-
thing. I have a very thick skin in that regards. What I'm saying is, in generally, for instance, someone like you, that you live within, not within or with the issue of the ecosystem,
Yeah.
and you have better relationship with the ecosystem.
But I also
than
find
many-
I'm
many-
getting, at first it was like a hermit thing, insulated, okay, in a way, but then it shifted to a relationship with people, all kinds of people. I don't have any judgment, right? We talked with John where I said, the people that you call,
Idiots.
black magicians
Idiots.
and, evil. I don't see them as, why should I turn them into tyrants when they're just cute, nice things that make my life more interesting?
So that is noble idea to be in that place, but it has
I know.
it has to have a process
Well,
for
if
a person to get to that
yes,
that level.
that's right. And the thing is, it's also what life you're in, right? If I was in a different life where I was being suppressed and my family was being killed and tortured, that would be a more difficult reality for me to create that kind of space within myself. I agree with you. I'm not in that space. I'm going to push as far as I can. And if I'm challenged by the heavens, by God, to take on the next level of that, in other words, a higher, tougher thing, then I move into it with the same I think I
attitude.
will get what I can handle. I don't
Yeah.
think I will get anything I can't
Beyond
handle.
that, yeah, okay.
Okay, that's my true
Oh,
belief.
so you mean people really are put in the challenge based on their ability or their
Yes.
tolerance?
Yes.
That is very interesting. So that means if someone is living in, let's say, Lebanon in 1967, that for years being no home, nothing, everything is bombarded.
But they
Has
handle it.
no, I'm just using that
Yeah.
as I'm just putting that analogy. It's very far, and compare it to someone who is
Yes.
living in Oxford, go to Oxford or go to a big mansion in
Yeah.
London. They is put there because of their level of their tolerance.
You see, I don't want to say. I think they chose to be there.
No, they
from
are
another
not, but-
place, from another plane.
Yeah.
And they chose to be there. I would think. But my point
There
is,
was a reason to be there.
there are people that turn it into something really dark and evil, and there are people in that society that turn it into something very holy and spiritual. Now, you find people that are starving, and from those communities, a lot of the people are a lot happier than the people that live in our society. And they're starving.
That I agree. That I agree.
So,
I have
how can you
I-
just
no, no.
agree with that and not see something beyond
no,
that?
no.
No,
I
I
yeah.
don't mean.
Yeah, no, no.
I'm not saying that you don't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we have to question.
But
sometimes
collectively,
what is logical. Yes.
collectively, based
Right.
on what information available, a large number of the people, or even majority of them, I don't want to put a percentage, don't see that.
Collective is a very funny word. I think there's a collective awakening in a spiritual sense, but there's another collective that's going to sleep, which has to do with conformity and culture and being stuck in karma.
Yeah, that one, the
Okay.
one that I was referring was the second
Yeah, so
one.
there's two things
Yeah.
happening. The more, and this seems to be happening to a greater extent, right? The karma thing is getting worse and deeper. But when that's happening, something else is happening, which is a freedom from that, which is moving into a different possibility as a collective, so that we're able to create the opposite. So it's like two things going in two different directions.
So would you agree then that, let's just say, in the case of, let's say, this culture, which then creates a kind of prison effect, which then leads to oppression,
Yes.
the greater this oppression, the greater the pressure,
Yeah.
this then also has
Creates-
the impact of actually creating the catalyst from which spirituality then, which gives,
The opposite.
pushes things exactly through in the opposite direction.
Like you got to know that
Equal and
that's
opposite
the
reaction.
opportunity within the third dimension. Those are the laws.
And so that becomes the catalyst itself.
One of our guests in one of
Yeah.
last shows was talking about that. I think again it was Mr. Stewart, if I'm not mistaken, was talking about this adversity, like wars and this heavy thing. It is part of that awakening.
No, that was
You-
me who was saying that, but that's beside the
said no,
point.
but he was
Well,
talking
no, I
about
was making the point in relation
he
to
was the
fact-
guest actually.
Well, no, but no, I was making the point. What we were talking about was, if this is the point, what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's just say we all agree on that there's a certain degree of this tension
Yes.
that's required in order to create this enlightenment. And if we also agree on the fact that this enlightenment is central to why we're here.
Well, if you're enlightened, why do you need tension to enlighten?
No, but to get us there, right?
Yeah, but
Exactly,
if you
but we
want
wouldn't be here.
everybody, then you need enough tension.
Right. So,
And I think we want everybody.
so
And
let's
even
just-
though a lot of religions don't believe in that, they only believe a selected
no,
few
we're
are
not
going
talking
to
about
heaven.
religion now.
Yeah,
But let's
no,
just say, if we-
religion
All
in our
right,
show is
cool.
already has been resolved as a restrictive environment.
So if we
right.
accept to say between the three of us that basically is the reason why we're here, and that's the context that we can actually look at the frame
Right.
within which we can look at them. Okay, but then within that then, if that tension is what we're needing, and also how we respond to that tension, of
Right.
course, right? Where do you position, let's say, what we're talking about, the ecosystem, literally and as a metaphor? Where would you place it within that conversation?
Oh, I think it just lives in the same space.
But what is it? No, but I'm saying, what does it represent? Let's say,
Relationship to it?
Yeah, like for instance, in a sense,
Oh, I
how
can
does
tell
it
you.
help us with that?
I can tell you
exactly
how,
with that struggle.
Well, I can tell you
Yeah.
how nature
Yeah.
lives
Yeah.
beside
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Nature is affected by it, and nature is critically being pulled into a lower expression of itself because of that. So how is the ecosystem affected? Because we made it stronger than the surrounding nature, which isn't ready for this shit yet, right, that we're bringing to it. We made it sort of more able to deal with this. I mean, we're putting it into indoors in an impossible environment, and we're being successful in keeping it and creating a high expression.
Like a zoo.
Well, it's like a laboratory in the sense that you're helping the mechanical nature to get to speed with what we as human beings, the tension that we bring to the world.
So does it then give us a kind of, in a way, like a working model which parallels the struggle that we have?
Oh yeah.
And
definitely.
so in that way, it reflects back to us
Everything
in a continuing
reflects.
way. And I guess also too
Everything
is if
reflects.
we're actually going offline,
Yeah.
right? And if because on the road,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't spend a lot of time straight on the road. It's zigzagging, right?
Yeah.
Does this something like this, like the ecosystem, how would it, let's say, reflect us, or even would it reflect back to us, let's say, to the extent to which we're off the road, right? That we're out of sync.
Okay.
Would it do that in some
Number
way?
one, it's not like a master. You will do this. It's,
hopefully
it's a
it's not
very,
talking
very
to
subtle
us.
thing where you just
Or guideline, at least.
guideline.
Yeah.
It is a very soft. It's like Star Trek, where you can't interfere. It can't interfere. You've got to find your own way. It's only about that. It's not showing you or telling you. It's a buffer to absorb and help you with your energies to manage. That's all.
But we have to be observant enough to see the signs, don't we?
Yes, there has to be massive observance and remembering, and yes, it communicates. But it's you that's looking for the reflection. It's not it that's giving a reflection.
So it is not coming to you and say, hey, you have to do that. But
If
you
we
have to
become
be
active with
mindful
it.
enough to see
Yes.
that cushion
Yes,
around
yes.
you,
What
how
helps,
it's
what helps you get the right frame of mind is this desire for harmonic technology, harmonic interaction, where you're asking it, do you mind to participate with me? Would you mind? It always says yes.
Can you,
that is the framework to create.
Can you tell us a rather simple daily routine, this kind of the observation that one could practice?
Yeah, and this is what I want to show in the course where I want to do Eco 101, where I'm going to show people how to take a little aquarium and build a little pocket of plants that grow out and maintain and manage this ecosystem with complex, very, very clean water. And it's actually a generator to create clean air in its limited way within that room, within that space.
But it within that container.
Within, yes, and your interaction with that, and your create, not me building it, but
No, I
them
understand.
making it,
Them making
and
it.
how to do it, and the whole process will open a door to all the things we're talking about.
It's like someone goes and start doing the gardening.
Yeah, well, in the simplest way,
But
we're
with
talking
a
about
higher
a more
degree of
mindful way.
mindfulness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I understand
And-
that.
and then
but
guidance-
but
guidance
with the
in-
process, you attach to it
now
and
that
you
can
pay
happen
attention.
slowly, or a door can open wider with, if we say and teach and the right people that show up that are ready to go through that door and that opening. So there are many things that show up, like I maybe I don't even want to say that, but part of what I want to say is that this is about giving people a green thumb. That's just
giving a people-
green thumb, so that you can keep anything alive. From somebody
okay.
who kills everything to just by connecting, it opens the ability to have a green thumb. Now, if everybody on the planet had a green thumb, it would be a different world.
Oh,
They also wouldn't be slaughtering and cutting things down.
Are
the
you
same way.
vegetarian?
No,
Okay.
So when we say a green thumb, right, what we literally mean is that it's somebody who plants and they tend to thrive as opposed to die, right? What does it require for a person to have a green thumb? Like, what does it mean to you? Like, we actually look behind that expression. What contributes to that allows that to happen?
You know what? It's hard for me to say because I didn't develop a green thumb.
Yep.
I was born with one, kind of. Like from 3 years old, I kept plants, and I was a weird kid, right? Throughout university, they thought
if you are aware to keep plants, then what it says about me that I don't have any plants.
We'll get to that later.
Well, yeah, we're going to get to that.
That's next week's show.
That's what I'm there for, is to have you have a green thumb, remember? So that you go, right, I'm
We're
there.
looking for the cure for bombing.
So yeah, for me it's hard to answer, you know, but my whole thing in life was how can I bring this, what I have, like a gift can also be a burden, right? But how can I bring that to people? First, I thought if I made systems that lasted longer, that's one way. But ultimately, it's really bigger than that. It's about how can I bring people into that space, that magical space, that space of love.
That they're giving life. So in a sense, it's a perpetual creativity, is it not, too? Because nature is never staying still. It's always
right.
creating itself.
And there's always this, exactly. So you're not worrying about what you're losing. You're just always grateful for
what is happening.
You're you're very open to the changes, whether good or bad. You start to
a farmer could have a bad year of the rain or something like that, and the crop doesn't come out well. That doesn't mean that next year he has to just
the good farmer, the bad farmer. The bad farmer is the one who, oh my God, you know, and he's going to slap his wife around, or
I am moving to Toronto.
Yeah, or the good one is, okay, now the land has been quiet for a year. Now let's move forward. And let's take this to another expression.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, have you ever considered a kind of, not 101, but minus 101, where you're using actually artificial plants?
Well, that goes back into the, remember when we talked about making your house into a Markaba, and you're using artificial, or you're using material things. You can infuse it with that energy, right? But it's not sustainable. It's just gonna, so you have to keep putting energy rather than it generating
Actually,
itself.
I said it is perfect nonsense, of course. But what I'm thinking, what it leads to...
Perfect nonsense.
Yes, exactly. But perfect nonsense. It's not any nonsense.
So it has meaning.
Well, to me anyways. I'm still looking for it. But what occurs to me is exactly this, that the thing about artificial things, right?
Yeah.
The distinction, which I never thought of before, is that with an artificial thing, we can at that moment give it meaning.
Yeah.
It's inanimate.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the moment that our attention then shifts away, it's gone.
It's
gone. Not sustaining. It's not, and it's not giving back to us.
So what does it breed? It breeds attachment.
Because we have to keep basically feeding it.
Exactly.
And
it breeds externality, and it's out there.
So such as a car, such as an object, such as everything, it's drawing energy. Right.
Antithesis of spirituality.
That then is, so that any object that is inanimate, that is not living, that we place any level of attachment to, ultimately is leading us in the wrong direction.
Great, perfect. You said it really well. Thank you.
So
I'm really just completing your thought, because I mean, what came out of my just pure idiocy, you see, led to actually something that, here's the process.
So we have some conclusion at the end of this show, at least.
Far from a conclusion, but at least we seem to be going in the right direction. But this is,
attachment to the non-living things not only doesn't help materialism in general, not only doesn't help us to grow, but also drains a certain amount of the energy.
It's an addiction.
Then we won't have even enough energy to go through the direction that we are guided to.
It keeps us vampirized. It's like, it's taken our energy away, and it's also a preoccupation. constantly, I gotta do this. You always have to. It's what makes us busy.
And I was thinking, and what we can even do is we could even take an animate object,
Yeah.
such as pets, right? You look at a poodle, and then the way they will, the haircut that they give to this poodle,
Yeah.
they turn it into some other thing,
Yeah.
which now again, is it even a poodle or some sort of abstraction? And so it's an objectification. So now, once again, we're even taking the animate
Yeah.
and turning it into something which is drawing energy. And we're not actually
Yeah,
deriving
because
that
we
which
are
is there.
talking about the actual haircut rather than the
Precisely.
actual.
That can also be done with gardening. Okay,
Like a topiary or something like that, for instance,
Yes.
like a French garden, or
Yes.
would be
precisely.
that.
Precisely. And so the key or the guide or the guide to tell you if you're on or off is how maintenance intensive is it and how maintenance free is it. And if you just guide it to organize itself, which is harmonic, there is no work.
So it's self-organized, but not totally, obviously, because
And
it's
you,
not
you, you,
yeah.
you, and
But-
you
but
can draw,
mostly.
and you can draw energy for yourself
But mostly.
instead of the releasing
And
one.
whatever
Yes,
energy
that's-
and work
and
you
that's-
put into it gives it more power to self-organize.
And now, exactly, and then extending that metaphor once again back to relationship. Same thing in terms of relationship to everything. This
If-
would
if
even to
you
your
want
children
to-
or anything. It would be in relation to it's over-managing
Why
versus
wouldn't that be the perfect thing in your home?
the models that.
Every conceivable.
We are getting, you got
Yeah.
a signal that we are getting to the end of the program. It was very interesting discussion. I hope I get to the point of that last conclusion that I let myself to just at least to preserve some of the energy that I am losing just because of the daily
That you're just leaking out.
leaking out, so to speak, from every aspect.
What we'll have to do is put you in a little Merkaba so that basically we can store it. So we don't.
I have to see the look of this Merkaba, how it look like.
Well, it's going to be your very own private.
It'll be very. It'll be like a little.
Or build one.
Yeah.
You could have your own. Actually, a little pyramid. I can imagine
Yeah,
something for you.
Thank you for coming, Wolfgang. And do you have anything for the rest of the end of the program?
No.
You don't.
No, that
Yeah,
last line about the pyramid, that was it for me.
That-
Exactly.
Any
I don't want
last
to top
word for
that
our
one.
viewers?
Yes, thank you very much, Wolfgang.
Yeah. Only that it's interesting because you said you were Iranian, and I think all of.
I'm not Iranian. I was born there, but
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't know what I am.
But I
I'm
think-
just a human being.
It's an open question.
One of the big things in the Arabic, call it religion, is gardens.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, Garden of the Eve, Garden of the Eden.
No, but like Alhambra, or all those gardens were
So
magnificent.
somehow we know
Yeah,
when
they
we talk
got-
about that. It's got to be something true.
Yeah, but it has, based on our discussion we had, could have a double meaning.
Yeah,
Building the actual garden mechanically or physically,
Yes, yes.
rather than let it be
Yes.
the natural garden.
Yes.
So
Or enhancing.
enhancing it, yeah.
But that beautiful balance, exactly. Well, actually, that comes to mind, the most beautiful garden I've ever seen is the Alhambra in Granada.
Okay.
And I guess, once again, there too, it's this balance between that which is sculpted, because it's very, very symmetrical.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if it was just that, then it's like Versailles, which is sort of dead.
Yeah.
Whereas here, with the water, the reflections, everything, there's something that continues to live. So it's this balance between the two, which makes it particularly beautiful, to your point.
Yeah.
That's great. Again, thank you very much
Yes,
for
thank
coming. That
Thanks,
was the show
Wolfgang.
for today, this Tuesday, 9th of February 2016. Please visit us or tune in next week, same time, same place. Good night.